that glow? What's up and welcome back. Today we have something super excited planned, but I am going to be going through my college applications, and I'm going to just be looking through them, reading through them, talking about what I wrote for the schools that I got into and didn't get into, and all of that fun stuff. So if you are new to the channel, my name is Sarah Chang. Welcome to the channel. I'm super excited for this video. I honestly haven't really gone through my college applications or haven't really thought about them too much ever since I had my own college applications almost 2 years ago now, which really blows my mind. So I have my laptop right here and we're gonna dive right into all the juicy stuff. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. If you're new, definitely subscribe and support your girl. And yeah. So really quickly before I begin, a lot of people have asked me about the research that I did in high school. So I did a research project in high school. I submitted a research portfolio to MIT, and I also wrote about it in a ton of my essays. One really cool opportunity that I wanted to share with you guys was the Summer STEM Institute, which is started by a couple of people I know at Stanford, MIT, and Harvard, so the big three. And they've essentially created a 6-week virtual research program, and it has a masterclass, and then they'll also guide you through your own independent research project. So it's an amazing opportunity to do research this summer, especially with COVID-19 preventing a lot of people from actually going to a lab or wherever and doing research. And so it is taught by amazing people. Like, these are people who are like Forbes 30 under 30. If tuition is a problem for you, they definitely have financial aid systems in place, so don't let that be a factor in why you don't apply. But anyways, please check them out. I'll have everything linked below, and let's get on to the video. Let's start with the important one. Let's start with the big MIT. So the MIT application is its own application. So usually there's like the Common App, or like for Texas schools, there's Apply Texas. But MIT, I think, kind of like Stanford, has their entire own portal. So I know that I submitted a research portfolio and then I answered the 5 supplemental essays. So I'm gonna go through my essays, talk a little bit about what I wrote for all of them. I don't know if the supplementals stay the same year to year, so I don't know if these are still the supplements used today, but this is what was happening back in my day. The first one was, we know you lead a busy life full of activities, many of which are required of you. Tell us about something you do simply for the pleasure of it. So if anyone can guess right off the bat what I wrote about, you will be an absolute true one. Especially because it is not something that I would write about anymore, but it was definitely like a big thing for me back in the day. But anyways, your Asian homie right here wrote about bubble tea. And so I wrote about the simple joy of drinking bubble tea. It's impossible to get the perfect tapioca ball to milk tea ratio. That was the first sentence. Every time there's like that, there's like a meme or you're like drinking bubble tea and it's like, oh, that ratio's off. I just think of this application. Wow, look at that glow. Okay. Anyways, moving on. The second essay. Although you may not know yet what you want to major in, which department or program at MIT appeals to you and why? And so this one was really hard because it's asking like, what do you like about this school? What do you want to study at our school? What are you going to bring into our school? Like all of those questions, and they give you 100 words to do it. And so for this one, I wrote about wanting to study course 6-7 at MIT. That is computer science and biology. And so my essay was pretty much just about like the experience of realizing why I was passionate about both of those things, and why, because I wanted to do both of them and I couldn't decide, why MIT was such a perfect fit for me, because they had this like specialized interdisciplinary course. And so definitely like for that one, I don't know, is this supposed to be an advice video? I don't know, but definitely for that one, like you'd want to like really try to pack in the emotion and the passion that you feel for like what you're doing, but also talk about why that makes this school a perfect match for you, you know? Just a little advice. Number 3, oh, I love this one. MIT students work to improve their communities in different ways, from tackling the world's biggest challenges to being a good friend. Describe one way in which you contributed to your community, whether in your family, the classroom, your neighborhood, etc. So this one is like, talk about a good thing you've done, you know? So usually people are like, oh, volunteering, leadership, I did this thing. You can be so creative with it. I took the very generic route of just writing about my volunteer experience, but oh my gosh. So this was one that I remember. For me, when I write college applications, I don't know if this will resonate with anyone else, but I just sit there and I try to think about the moment and all the emotions that I'm feeling and the happiness, the joy, the details, and I write those things down. And that is how I wrote the final drafts of every single essay, is like really trying to just like embody the moment and everything you're feeling. I'm like doing a meditation thing, but I'm not. At camp, I get paid in George B's smiles. It's a currency not exactly useful at the grocery store, but still more than welcome in my book. It's priceless. Dressed in my counselor's shirt, I start the day slumped over. I'm berating myself for not going to sleep earlier the night before, but my thoughts are interrupted when George enters the YMCA gym. I spring up and race to his wheelchair. Good morning, he smiles just a bit in response to my morning enthusiasm. I open my backup reserves of energy just to see another smile. As the day passes, I'm jumping, singing, and smiling alone in a room of counselors and campers who are contrastingly acting according to the hour. They're tired and it's early. It's embarrassing and I can feel the eyes staring, but each time George smiles in response and looks at me, there's no greater feeling of validation. He's happy, excited, and for a moment, his spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy doesn't exist. It's my first time volunteering at this camp, but third summer of working with special needs individuals. I remember my first year when the camp had told us during training, this week at camp is probably going to be your camper's best week of the year. Honestly, those were my best weeks of the year too. There we go. I really miss George. Okie dokie, last question. Tell us about the most significant challenge you've faced or something important that didn't go according to plan. How did you manage the situation? 200 to 250 words. Let me just tell you, first draft was probably like 600 plus words. So for this one, I wrote about a project that I did with my friend, and we were trying to write a research paper, and we were doing this for MIT Inspire, and we didn't get it, by the way. The paper didn't go anywhere. But we spent so long working on this. We just tried so hard on this. Like, have I said that? Have I explained to you thoroughly how hard we tried on this assignment that was purely for fun and how much effort and time we put into it? And anyways, essentially I just try to embody this one moment in our work progress where we finally figured out what we were gonna write about. We finally got a thesis going. We spent so much time trying to organize all of our thoughts, everything into an actual paper, right? It was 20 pages. We had the paper and it was over winter break. Mind you, this is when you're on winter break, you're not supposed to have to do work, but here we were in a library doing work and we had been grinding for days and we literally just sat there and were yeah, this paper is literally crap. It is the worst thing that either of us have ever written. And so I talked about that moment of realizing that all of our hard work had been for low-key, at that point, absolutely nothing, and trying to turn it around and keep going through that, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's what I wrote about. You gotta really capture the emotions because honestly, so many experiences and things that we go through are so powerful, but you just have to be able to communicate that. And I know that's hard because it was hard for me too. But yeah. Okay, that's enough with MIT. We're gonna go to the next thing that you're interested in, which is probably Harvard. But your girl only got waitlisted, so I don't know how much you wanna hear the essays and application of someone who got waitlisted. At least I didn't get rejected though. I can say Harvard did not reject me. I didn't apply to Stanford, if you're wondering. I can't give you any advice on those 12 supplementals because 12 is double digits is too many. Harvard Common App. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about what I did for the Common App. So when you think about the Common App, you're okay, what is this super significant thing in my life? What is a big part of my life? What is something I've contributed a lot to? Maybe you read about robotics, maybe you read about some competitions, some sports you do. This girl wrote about one afternoon in Whole Foods. I'll tell you the story behind my essay. So one day I was in Whole Foods, just minding my own business, trying to do college applications, and this really elderly man sat at the table next to me in the cafeteria, and I started talking to him. I don't remember why I started talking to him, but I just did. And you know, you hear all your life, like, don't talk to strangers, but I did, but we were chatting. He was harmless, like, okay, you always say people are harmless, but anyway, so yeah, I started talking to him. So his name was Stanley, and he was sitting next to me, and all he had was literally a bottle of wine. And I started talking. He was probably, I think he was 70 years old. And so I started talking to him, and he was just, I was just like, okay, this is just, it was a Wednesday afternoon, I still remember that. I was like, okay, this man, he's probably retired, he has nothing to do on a Wednesday. But it turns out, Stanley was like actually probably one of the coolest people I have ever met, will ever meet, like ever. Because with old age comes so many things that have happened to you. And so I remember like all these details, like his wife, I know they were separated, his daughter committed suicide, and he felt like he was responsible for that because he didn't fight harder to have custody of his daughter. He was in the Vietnam War. He like served in the Vietnam War, and now even at his like old age, even though I was like, okay, he's probably just chilling in Whole Foods because he's retired or something, but he was literally like working for the Red Cross or volunteering with the Red Cross, and he would travel all over the US, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is literally so cool. And he just had so much to him, and it just made me reflect so much on my own life. And so I talked about him and his life story, and then I also talked about just the things that it made me think about for my own life. And so then I reflected on different parts of my life, and I tied all of it together to the speech, This Is Water. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's such a good speech. I recommend everyone read it. But that was pretty much what I wrote about. So it was weird because I didn't write about something I dedicated a lot of my time to, or something that was like a significant part of my life, but at the same time, because the piece was a general like reflection on my own life, I was able to incorporate a lot of different parts about talking about what kind of person I am and what I think and how I think, and I was able to convey all of that on paper. And Harvard, I guess, did not think that it was sufficient to provide admissions. So it's really dark. Maybe I really do need that computer glow. But Georgia Tech and Rice did. So I love Georgia Tech. Go Yellow Jackets. That's not the symbol, but go Yellow Jackets. So yeah. Okay. Next up, we are going to talk about those optional essays. So my Harvard optional essay was the same as my MIT secret. You gotta reuse those essays, bro, because that's how copy and paste is for. That's what copy and paste is for. But it was about the George B story, but it was a lot longer. And I contextualized it to the idea of being uncomfortable and like approaching uncomfortable situations. So like I talked about how like in the beginning when I volunteered with special needs campers, I was really uncomfortable because I had never interacted with that population before. I didn't know how to act, I didn't know how to treat them. And that made me feel very nervous, like insecure about what I was doing. I wasn't like, am I making the right decision right now? What was I saying? So yeah, so I like the first time I volunteered at camp, I was just super nervous about everything, and I contextualized that to talking about myself. And so one, I was like talking about something that was really important to me because I was like talking about this like thing, like this volunteering experience that I had done for years and years, and I did every summer consecutively. So like it was something that I had committed like a lot of my time to. And I was also talking a bit about my personality and a way in which I had grown. And so I'll read you the first paragraph. There are situations when every part of my introverted personality screams, abort mission. Just when my legs are ready to retreat from the frustration, fear, and vulnerability of uncomfortable settings, I set my head back straight. An inner voice reminds me of the countless times I've conquered and grown from foreign environments. I was confident my time with Katie would go the same. Insert name, insert Katie, who is my camper, who who was so amazing, and I cried so hard when I had to leave her. Yeah. Harvard supplements. I didn't know there were Harvard supplements. It says briefly elaborate on one of your extracurricular activities or work experiences. So this one I talked about working in the lab. So again, as I said, I applied Core 6-7 to MIT, which means I was interested in bio and comp sci at the time of applications. So for MIT or for Harvard, I talked about, I think I applied as like a bio, like wanting to do like Navy pre-med, definitely not anymore, but yeah, so I just talked about being in the lab for the first time for one of my research projects, and how I guess how nervous I was because I was kind of thrown on my own when I did this research. I definitely had mentorship, but I remember the first day I walked in, literally my professor wasn't even there. I couldn't even find the grad student, and then when I finally did, he literally handed me an email, a printed out email of instructions, put me in the lab, and was like, okay, have fun. And I was like, that's a lot of trust. But yeah, so that's what I wrote about. I'll read you one of my favorite lines. Actually, it's not a favorite, but it's just a line. Eventually, the best moments were when I sat slouched on the blue cushioned chair with nothing but the hum of the fume hood filling the empty silence. Wearing oversized gloves, I neutralized cell extracts with confidence, patience, and amazement that at the end of this day, this project was wholeheartedly mine. So I try to put a positive spin on how the space and the independence, like how I grew into it and I owned up to it, you know? Okay, this video is getting really long, I'm sorry. So we are just gonna do one more school. What you interested in? Let's do Georgia Tech. Okay, I'm gonna do Georgia Tech, and here's why. Georgia Tech was the very first school that I worked on. It was the very first school that I submitted, and it was also the school that I probably spent the most time on because it was the first school I did. It was like my first deadline, and so I was like, I just put in so much time into it. I probably put in too much time into it, but we're gonna talk about Georgia Tech anyways because I am a diehard Georgia Tech fan, and yeah. I remember the deal with this was I actually wrote my essays on the wrong prompts and I had to change them last minute. So I don't actually know 100% what the right prompts are supposed to be. Let's see. There's a why Georgia Tech essay, which was beyond rankings, location, and athletics, why are you interested in attending Georgia Tech? 150 words max. So Georgia Techs were super short, I remember that. And there were two really short essays. As always, like I started them, I had so much longer than the word limit. I had to cut down, but here we are, here we're gonna go. I don't even think this was when I submitted, honestly, because actually, yeah, it wasn't. But okay, so I don't think what I just read, I don't think that was an essay. Like I wrote it, but I don't think I turned it in because it ended up being rotated out that year. But anyways, why do you want to study your chosen major at Georgia Tech, and how do you think Georgia Tech will prepare you to pursue opportunities in that field after graduation? So at this time, I wrote about wanting to do comp sci, especially if I were going to go to Georgia Tech, I wanted to do comp sci. So I talked, especially for me, because I had spent all of high school doing a lot more bio and I hadn't really done much comp sci. A lot of my essays for schools that were like purely comp sci ended up talking about kind of like acknowledging that inexperience and being willing to embrace it and being like, yeah, I know that I'm going to be like behind other people who have been doing comp sci this whole time, but like it's not something I'm 100% willing to do and stuff like that. 2 summers ago, I was lying on a Georgia Tech hammock, soaking in the sun on the campus, and realizing my favorite part about the school. For me, being a yellow jacket means an appetizer of undergraduate research, entree of computer science classes, and a dessert of studying abroad. It's a scarily full meal. So there was a little metaphor I did, but that was Georgia Tech, the first one. The second one for Georgia Tech, oh yeah, okay, so this one was like, describe your typical day. So this one you had several options for what you could write about, and I chose to do describe your typical day. So, okay, so I like kind of like run through my day, and then I think it was the last sentence, the last little paragraph that was like actually good. That was actually good. So it goes, and finally, this evening I let out a breath I didn't know I had been holding the entire day. I'm lying on my bed listening to James Arthur, staring at the fairy lights that softly illuminate a darkened room and thinking. Nothing else is going on around me. No phone, no people. Just me and the mini pillows that used to protect me from the monsters at night. It's a moment I hadn't known I needed, and I recharge for the next equally busy, equally eventful day. And so I think that the biggest thing is that even though during the whole essay I'm kind of like iterating through all the things I do and like being like, oh, subtle flex, you know? But it's that like last sentence where you're actually putting it, or that last paragraph where you're actually putting in emotion. You're feeling in this feeling like again, like as I said, like when I write essays, I really just like try to embody the moments that I feel, if that makes sense. So I was like thinking about how like there were just so many days when I laid down and I'd be like, and then I'd fall asleep. And that's literally it. But yeah, I don't know. Those were my essays. They were, honestly, personally, I really enjoyed writing college essays. Like, I know that's unpopular opinion, but I thought they were really fun, and I enjoyed, I guess, like, it forces you to reflect so much on who you are, what you want to be, everything, and like, you get to write about it. I also really like writing, being creative, especially when you write something that you feel good about, that you're proud of. Like, that's the best feeling, and you know it. Like, you know when an essay's good, you know when a sentence is good, you know when your essay's trash. And I guess it's just that feeling like after you like, oh, this is trash, good. Like once you reach that good, you're like, hallelujah, bless the Lord and Savior. So anyways, those are my college applications. It's been a hot second since I've read any of them. It's weird because I remember them so familiarly because I spent so much time reading over them and looking at them and staring at them, but at the same time, like, it's been so long since I've read them. So that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed doing a little throwback Friday, but yeah, so peace out. That is the video, and have a wonderful end of the school year. And I am so excited for summer because actually, am I though? Summer is gonna be a lot of work this year. But yeah, so anyways, thank you so much for listening to me talk. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe and support the channel, and I will talk to you soon.